coaching. One,
Yeah.
2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
We're about to play. We've got 30 seconds.
Okay, oh, that's...
You mean we're on?
We're on.
We made it by 30 seconds.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Well, that's amazing.
Okay. Tao Shan is the big guy. I haven't got any sort of a level in my cans of me.
Neither have I. I haven't, yeah.
Well, here we are in Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto for this first game of the second round, and it's China up against Croatia. And the most surprising thing is there are very few people here in this game. There's Tony Kukoc, the Croatian star. This is a game where Croatia is expected to win and win comfortably. China was one of those teams that came through with it. Nobody expected. They just came from the clouds with a shock win over Spain in the first round. And coach of the Chinese team there, well, I just wonder what he might be expecting in this one. Lindsay, it's going to be a tough one for them.
Well, you're always got to be cautious about when you get to the quarter-final rounds, that obviously they're all very good teams. But I'm sure that the Croatians will be confident about winning this one. And I can also assure you that of all of the fans that are here, 90% of them will be supporting Croatia.
Well, they got off to a pretty good start because Mirisic scoring the first one. And in fact, I don't think Mirisic even hit the court the other night against Australia, but the jumper going off from the baseline and huge frames on the board to pull that one down. And it's Mirisic who comes away with the ball again. So Alanovic in the back court. Mirisic joins him now, and Kukoc on the wing. But Tony Kukoc takes it to the paint and draws the foul and scores. And that's the problem that China is going to face all night. The big man Tao Shan trying to take him, and here's Tony Kukoc. Tao Shan comes across to help. All he can do is foul him and send him to the free throw line. So we'll get a three-point play to begin with from Tony Kukoc. Well, three-time European Player of the Year and now playing with the Chicago Bulls.
Well, that's a dangerous sign for China, with Shan getting a foul very early in the game. In the match that they won against Spain, he got into foul trouble. In fact, he fouled out with about 7 or 8 minutes to go, and we thought that would be the end of China, but they survived. But he is the only genuine big man in the team. Of course, the Croatians have got 3 giants in the front line.
Sun bound behind to Tao Shan. Along the baseline they go to Woe, and Adaljan, the guard, handling the ball, taking some time off the clock. Didn't get that ball, did get it away in time. I think the referee put the 3-point signal went up, but the buzzer went off, and it will be Croatia to take the ball from the back court. And that's about the only time that you'll see Adaljan shoot the ball. He averages about 1 shot a game and will only shoot it if he finds it in his hands when the 30-second clock is winding down. So this gives the Croatians a chance to go back into offense again. And big form of Dino Raja takes it at the hoop and scores. And they've got really nothing to go against that. So Raja scoring for Croatia, a 7-0 lead early in the game, and the trend has already been set. Tao Shan with a handoff there to Sun. In the corner they go to Zheng Wo. Down along the baseline, the reverse layup that goes down from Naikeen Wo. Now he is a scorer, and he will have to carry a big load here tonight. First points for China, and Kukoc takes it to the hoop. They dragged it off the hole, but it falls again inside that pass that was meant for Kukoc. There's a big hand in the way. And low they go to Dino Raja again. They fouled him, and we're going to see a bit of this with the foul going against Naikeen Wo. And Dino Raja will step to the free throw line again for a 3-point play. This is a bit of a replay of what we saw earlier. Underneath Raja, just too big a frame.
Well, on the score sheet it'll say Dino Raja 2 points, but that really should be shared with Tony Kukoc, who's noted for his tremendous passing ability, and not only his passing ability but his vision to see that option.
The sort of pass that he threw too was a little left-handed shovel pass. Of course, he is a lefty, but the kind of pass that you wouldn't encourage kids to pass, but he's been doing it for a few years now, and he can do it with pinpoint accuracy. Sun was fouled as he tried to drive the baseline. It'll be a ball out of bounds. And Mirsic, 15, is the first one to incur a foul for Croatia, but his team is up by 10 points to 2, and we've only been playing for 2.5 minutes. Now Naikin Wo, Adiljan. See if they take some time off the clock again. Tao Shan looks at that front line of the Croatians and decided against it. Now he's looking to back in. Adiljan, there's an open shot for him and he will not take it. Sun along the baseline, dumped it to the baseline man, but they do get the ball back and back into the hands of Jun Sun again. Adiljan launches a three. Well, he's proved me wrong already. He's taken his second shot. We've only been playing just over 3 minutes. So,
well, that was just trying to keep.
He's got a feel for it out there.
Well, he was just trying to keep the defence honest. He's got to take some shots, and it is significant there that Vrankovic was really not respecting Zhang as he's not there. And with Adiljan, they're content not to guard him either. And clearly that puts a lot more pressure on the other players.
Vrankovic it is who pulls the ball down off the boards, sends them away, and Dino Raja, 6'11", and runs the break as well as anybody. I know the Australians were very concerned, talking to them at practice today, that the amount of times that Dino Raja got off on the break against them. Well, he did it then against China, and I figure he'll do it against some more teams as well.
And that usually only comes from an offensive error or a shot that's taken without the strong rebounding contest. So if you allow the Croatians to do that, they're going to score heavily.
Adiljan, another three-pointer, and left that one way short, so he's none of three.
I think it won't be too long before we see Guingong Wu coming in, number 10, the other guard. It's strange. China usually starts with Adiljan. He plays for 5 or 6 minutes, and then they make the replacement.
Well, it's a dunk from Vrankovic, and he was fouled again. And you must be a little bit psychic, Lindsay Gaze, because the Chinese bench hadn't moved, as you were saying that, and now the coach, just after you spoke, you got some sort of line to the bench, because he went down to Chinglong Wo and said, time to come in. So we've got time out here, 4 minutes gone in the ball game, and Croatia with a 10-point lead. And the coach is following your advice. So when we see the players come back onto the court, I'm sure Chinglong Wo will be taking out Adiljan to try and do something about. He's really got to try and reverse a trend here, hasn't he?
Well, there's a problem for China in that they have very few targets to the offense close to the basket. Shan is normally a strong target for them, but he's being overmatched with the double teaming of the Croatians, and someone else has to take up the slack. There's been opportunities on the perimeter, but Adiljan is not capable of doing that, and now Wo is the one who's going to be given that mission. It's not only their offense that has to be picked up, but they've got to be able to prevent the transition basket for the Croatians, who have scored very easy baskets each time down the floor. The China will have to be patient. They'll have to score a high percentage, and whenever they can maintain that, they've got a better chance of preventing the transition game for Croatia.
Well, there's the situation. 12 points to 2 after 4 minutes of the game, and the Chinese huddle. And they're speaking with a little bit of vehemence out there, trying to organise this team before they come back in. And they've really got some problems early in the game. The problem, of course, is they don't have the cattle to put on the floor and handle the physical presence of this Croatian team. And there's some of the Croatian crowd, and they're not here in very big numbers today. We're just sort of wondering why this game is playing in the very early evening. Well, it is almost 7 o'clock in Toronto in the evening on a Monday evening. It is a work day, so maybe the Croatians who've been coming out in here in their numbers have looked at this game and said it's up against China, a game out we think our team might win comfortably, and they've opted to save their dollars for a little later in the week, Lindsay.
Well, perhaps it's another explanation that the fans that we've seen have been at Hamilton, and maybe there's a factor there that most of the Croatian population is accommodated down there and have decided not to make the trip up tonight and waiting till tomorrow night.
Three-point shot goes up from way outside, and it's come from Naikeen Woe, and he can really drill the three-pointer, but he's going to have to drill some in this game. As again, the Croatians go inside, and why shouldn't they? A miss there from Kukoc, and a foul again. I think it's against Tao Shan again. Adiljan puts his hand up, but yes, it is against Adiljan. I thought it might have been against Tao Shan, but here's the battle on the boards.
Well,
I'm not sure what
made a mistake there, strange enough, although he drew the foul. And for the big guys, and this man knows what the game's all about, of course, when you get the rebound there, technically you're supposed to keep the ball above your head or around shoulder height. As soon as he brought it down to his knees, well, that was an invitation for the Chinese players, Adiljan, to swipe at it, and he might have been a little bit lucky to get a foul out of that.
So at the free throw line, Stoyan Vrankovic again, and not making it off the stripe that time, but his team is leading by the 10 points, 15 points to 5. And Naikeen Woe out there who hit the last three-pointer. This is Sun. Adiljan again looked at it, faked the shot in the right corner. It's Ho, and Ho hits from the right-hand side. So Weedong Ho makes the three and reduces the margin to 7.
Well, he's the leading scorer on the Chinese team, and he's a player that I've mentioned before when we've seen him. I like the way he plays. He's patient. He's got good touch from the outside. And he has athletic ability. He can jump as well. But he's just a lightweight. And it'll be a case of whether he can sustain the effort against the heavier and more physical Croatians.
So that time, Sun with the foul, and has put Mirisic at the free throw line. Lindsay, one of the ways the Chinese can get into this lead a little bit is they can keep Croatia to 2 at this end and just keep hitting 3 at the other. That gets you back 1 point at a time.
Yes, it might take a while to do that because the Croatians can hit from the outside as well. They're quite capable of making the 3. That Svetochanin hasn't come into a Komicic, and who buried, I think, 7 of 8 against the Australians from out that range.
Well, Kukoc momentarily grabbed the pass. Here's another 3 going up and setting his feet well underneath him. Weedong Ho makes 2 in a row. So the ball game is a 5-point one now. 16 playing 11. And China starting to get the formula right. But look for the Croatian team to adjust next time down the floor. They're going to have to start to get to these 3-point shooters. Inside they go again. Kukoc for 2 down the middle. That time they did the right thing and not foul him. The foul on Kukoc at the other end. So one of the problems for China is, as well as giving up the 2, they've been fouling as well and offering the 3-point play. But an indication there of Kukoc coming out to his man. We'll see that foul again. We saw him fairly quickly there as the tape machine got away on us a little bit. Sun. That man Woe again, and Sun fires one up there, but all it is a rebound for Vrankovic. Off to the races again as Dino Raja down the middle this time. And Raja gets away on the fast break after Vrankovic had rebounded at the other end. And that is a situation that the Croatians find themselves in so often. Vrankovic dragging the ball down off the boards and Raja getting off at the other end. Now they're getting up to the perimeter players. A little bit more urgency. And fake of a shot, and down it goes, this time from Chinglong Woe, who's come into the quarterback position, and this also gives them an extra 3-point shooter out there, Lindsay.
Well, he can make that shot where Adiljan can't, and the other thing is that he wants to take it. He has to make a high percentage because I think the Croatians have already shown how effective they are in the transition. At least half of their points have come from the transition basket already, and they're just as effective in the half-court game.
Raja.
Like
with the short-range jumper, hits another 2, and Dino Raja is up to 11 points, the first player into double figures. But interestingly, the way this game is being played, Croatia is yet to take a 3-point shot. They haven't had to because they've gotten their points in the paint, whereas the Chinese have taken 7. That's the 8th one. They've made 4 of 8.
He just had to push that one up a little bit quickly. When he gets his feet set, He's a strong and a reliable shooter from that range. But just a little bit anxious on that one. Pushed it up a little bit quickly, and it rimmed out.
Now, speaking of three-point shots from Croatia, here's a chance now with Komasets coming into the game and taking out Veljko Mirsic. So Komasets will fire the three. Alanovic is capable as well. It's Alanovic on the drive now, but all he could do is turn the ball over to Wee Dong Ho. Ho waiting for teammates, and there's a three-point shot open up immediately for him. He's got a sweet shot, hasn't he?
Well, once he gets his feet set and gets a look at it, he's very reliable, and that's a good option for China. And if they can keep making those and reduce the transition basket in a half-court game, it's a reasonable contest.
The 2-3 zone from China. See if they can shoot from outside of it. Komasets with the drive, and it falls for Alanovic. Kukoc looking it across, and now finds Komasets on the other side. Makes the two. And it's 24 playing 17. But this three-point game of the Chinese keeping them in it. Down the middle they go, and the drive that time from Wee Dong Ho. The defense really opened up for him. And that's what will happen with the three-point shooting.
Well, I think the Croatians were a little bit surprised that they took the early shot there, that they would normally expect China to make 4 or 5 passes before they find the open man. That time he went straight in.
First three-point shot from Croatia, and it fits. Arjan Alanovic. And at the other end again, it's that man Wee Dong Ho. He's having one heck of a game out there. 16 points to him. He's hit 4 of 5 from outside the three-point line. 27 plays 21. So standing around the perimeter, Komasets has absolutely no movement from this Croatian offense at the moment. Now they run some time off the clock. They've got it down to 6 seconds to go. Raja dumps on the inside, and lucky there because it fell for Brankovic. And the Chinese could find themselves fairly unfortunate on that play.
Well, it looked like the Croatians there. It was the lull before the storm for China. They were very patient. They knew precisely what they were doing. A little three-man game inside the zone. And I'm also not too sure how long China can stay in this zone. They tried a zone defense against Spain, got 15 points down by half-time, and then they went into man-to-man and reversed the result. China started with a man-to-man. They're now having a look at a zone. But the Croatians at least are in very good control. They can pick them off with their big boys as they move around on the inside. And I'm not too sure what advice I can give China now. That they really have to depend heavily on their high percentage shooting to stay with them.
Well, they really have to stay with the zone, though, don't they? I mean, it does slow the Croatians up a little.
Well, if they're going to stay in a zone, they have to match up a little bit better. They're playing the zone defense very much on occupying areas on the floor rather than being alert to the man. And if they allow the penetration pass to the man filling the gap, well, then the Croatian size takes over. They keep the ball above their head, dump it down to their teammate on the inside. It's too difficult for China to cover that. They really need to put more pressure on the ball, then try and match up with the players on the inside to force Croatia to play a perimeter game. They have the players, of course, that can make it from out there, but it's the percentage game that I think that they'd have a better percentage chance if they can keep Croatia to the perimeter rather than allow them to power inside as often as they have.
Speaking of powering inside, we're watching the Phoenix Suns gorilla at the moment, and this might be a clue to the Chinese. If perhaps when he goes off the court at the end of the timeout, if he leaves that mini tramp there, particularly not at this end though, because that's the end of the court that the Croatians are playing offense at the moment. If they could put it up at the other end and let the Chinese go off the mini tramp, although I mentioned it probably at the start of the game that this Chinese team is not small. They have an average height of 6'6", and if they could use the same sort of extra assistance that they get from that mini tramp there, they're in with a chance. But with people like that coming back to the floor, this man, Tony Kukoc, they do have some problems because he has all the moves and he's listed at 6 feet 10 inches and handles the ball in the back court. So they really don't have anyone to match him. And a steal there from Komasets sends Kukoc away straight to the hoop. Can't make the layup, but it's Komasets with the rebound. And that is a real problem. China cannot afford to make turnovers like that. They have to get a shot off each time down the floor, hopefully a three-pointer.
We can almost guarantee Croatia will punish you on a play like that they score a remarkably high percentage any time they're off in the transition game.
Just a little bit more effort into the Croatian defence at the moment. They're coming right out on them. It looked like there was a foul there that probably the Chinese were a little unfortunate. Away comes Raja again and slams it down the middle. Gets the foul as well. He'll go to the free throw line. We saw the big chest pump there. Have a look at it. They get the ball at the other end. Dino Raja takes off. You saw him take off on the right-hand side there. They found him with the bounce pass. He was fouled as well. So Dino Raja steps up. He has 13 points already. Make it 14. And Croatia gets that lead out to 13 when just a minute ago the Chinese thought they were in there with some sort of a hint of a chance. They got it back to 6 points and the Croatians put them away again. Tao Shan. Now he can't shoot over the top of people like Brankovic. Away they go again. Kukoc's extra step as well.
Just a moment.
Komaset's got an extra step, but the referee didn't bother to call it and gave them the fast break.
I think the Japanese referee there, who was due to make that call, was just as interested in being a spectator on that one. He was waiting for the spectacular play and just let them play.
Sun went down the middle, had to put too much arch on the shot to give away some accuracy. Raja again pulls it up, not this time for Dino. And we've got a 4-on-4 play with 2 players left at the other end of the court. That did not fall, so Sun's drive to the basket drew a foul out of Komasets. Watch Kukoc on this play. Little left-handed scooper and the extra step. You saw it in there from Komasets.
Well, I counted 4.
2 extra steps will make it. So Sun at the free throw line to shoot a pair. 36 points to 21. 6 team fouls against China, 4 against Croatia. Chance for the Chinese to get their breath back. Been taken up and down the floor a couple of times for Zheng Wo to come in for China. That's him, number 5, as they try and get some fresh horses out there, and Sun goes out. So a 13-point ball game. Still in the backcourt for Croatia. They haven't bothered to change that, but they go underneath the Raja. It gets some sort of an indication the way the Croatians are attacking this, Lindsay. They've only made the 1 sub with Komasets coming in from Mursic.
Yes, well, I think that they're preparing their team, and they don't substitute very frequently under any circumstances. And in this case, they are treating China with respect because regardless, they must win. This is not a game that they can take lightly. And I think that Spain made the mistake of having a 15-point lead at half-time and taking it for granted that they can go on from there.
Lindsay, there's that man again, Wei Dong Ho. That was a shot under some pressure from outside the 3-point circle as well. And he is putting on a 3-point shooting exhibition out there. He is 5 of 6 from outside the circle. It doesn't get any better than that. Komasets, he can hit as well, especially when they don't go to him, allowing an uncontested 3-pointer.
Well, China's made a little variation of their zone defense in playing a 1-3-1, and the fundamental rule of a 1-3-1 defense is you've got to get to the man on the wing. They were a little bit confused about choices there as whether to cover the inside of the man with the ball.
There he goes again.
Mistake. He's a good one.
Wei Dong Ho. An immaculate shooting exhibition. I'll keep you in touch with it. It's 6 of 7. And he's kept China in this game all of his own. 18 points from outside the circle, and they've only scored 29. But now the Croatians open up from outside, and Vladan Alanovic. They've got Alanovic and Komasets who'll take the 3. We haven't seen Kukoc shoot the 3 yet. He shoots plenty for the Bulls.
Oh, I'm not too sure about that. I think that...
particularly in the playoffs, well, I mean, he fired some up there.
Well, when it becomes necessary, he'd rather make the pass first, and then after that, if people are covered, he's prepared to take it, and he can make it. but his first priority is usually always to find the open man and get it to them. If that's covered and it comes back out to him, well, then he can make the play himself.
Watching Raja again inside on replay, and timeout called once again here. 44 plays 29, so between the two timeouts, Croatia has taken it out by 15 when it was down to about 7 at the last time out. So the last period of play has been very good for Croatia. But how about this shooting exhibition from the three-pointer? Number 8 for China, Wei Dong Ho. Lindsay, you spotted him early in the tournament and took a liking to him, but you've got to like what he's doing here tonight.
Well, I think he's the man that's keeping China into the game with his accuracy and his athleticism. He's a very quick player. It might seem as though the Croatians should be able to cover him and put a little bit more pressure on him, but he moves around the floor well, and the China are setting good screens from him. Once he gets open and gets his feet set, well, then he's a reliable shooter. And so I think China has done well in their scoring. They just have to find some way of subduing Croatia, because they're scoring better with the occasional transition basket and their efficiency in the half-court game. And as I said, I'm not too sure about this zone defense, because what they're doing, they're occupying positions, but they're really not putting pressure on the ball. And Croatia can make the pass quite satisfactorily, and then they make their choice. And all of the Croatians are very, very effective scorers. So I think unless they put a little bit more pressure on the ball and be selective about the way they try to deny the pass on the inside, Croatia will outscore them.
I think we might see some changes in the lineup very shortly for the Croatians, getting some other players ready. Players that we haven't seen a lot of during the tournament, and they will gradually feed them in. We're going to see Ivica Zuric come into the game. He'll be wearing number 9. That's Kukoc with 7 assists in the first half. So he's on his way to a very good statistical game. Shaquille O'Neal in the stands. Now, that's interesting that the dream team is here. Having a look at Croatia, because they're certainly going to meet them a little later in the tournament.
Well, I'm not so sure about certain. It's a very, very high probability in the way that the...
I'd like to put money on it.
Fair enough.
Komasets from outside the three-point, and Ariane Komasets, who's just a pure sweet shooter. He can do a lot of other things very well as well as that, but gee, he looks great when he's outside the three-point line. And China try and open them up, and we've got a push against Komasets as he tried to get through a screener there. Yudong Liu set a pretty good screen, and Komasets, in his eagerness to get to the outside shooter, couldn't quite get there. And off the bench for Croatia is Danko Sveticanin, one of the veterans, and he takes out Vladan Alanovic. Dumping on the inside. This is trouble, but he drew a foul. They had the defensive man in the air, so Naikin Wo will go to the free throw line to shoot a pair. And Raja's fouled. It's 1 foul for Raja. It's the 6th team foul for Croatia. China have 7. So there's the situation off the free throw line, and an indication of the way the game's being played that China has only been there once before. They've hit 2 of 2, but of course, in that early part of the game, particularly while China played man-to-man, the Croatians stuck the ball inside and drew the fouls. So 4 of 4 off the stripe, and now China shows a different set. They come down the floor and put some pressure on defense. This very well-drilled Croatian team breaks it up fairly readily, and they foul Dino Raja. It doesn't matter how hard they hit him, Lindsay, he will make the 2.
And he didn't move. They hit him, but he just simply didn't move.
Have a look at it. Again, it's Kukoc dumping it on the inside. That time it came via someone else. Sveticanin's pass. It went to Dino Raja. He was banged from all directions, and he's having a pretty nice first half with 18 points and 4 rebounds.
And he's making some Sean Kemp type expressions after the basket as well. Kemp is known to do a little bit of air punching and chest beating and so forth after a dunk or a good play. Dino Raja seems to be following the same trend.
Well, short with the jumper there. Offensive rebound goes to Adiljan, who's probably the smallest man in the tournament, even though he is 5'11". Doesn't look it out there running around amongst those people. Past these people in the street. people like Adiljan, he looked like a fairly normal sort of person, but out here he looks an absolute midget. That time was Naikeen Woe on the turnaround under plenty of pressure. Hit the short-range jumper off the baseline, and it's a 15-point game. Off the baseline shine and a slam dunk from Kukot's Adiljan outside the three-point line with a penetration to make some space. Naikeen Woe off the baseline and hits a two. So a little trading baskets here, and again China comes up the floor on defense, but they can't do too much about it. Raja down the middle, dumps off there, and Komaset's just inside the half-court line. Kukot's. That time from outside, it's Ivica Zuric with his first shot. So we haven't seen Zuric in the tournament so far, but he's shown us he can stick the three.
He shot that like a free throw.
Like he's shot plenty of them. Adiljan having a little play here.
He's not going anywhere.
He's being met there by Svetichanin. Along the baseline, they open up the three-point shooter from the other wing. Not that time for Naikeen Woe, and a foul in the backcourt will go against Adiljan, trying to put just a little bit too much pressure on, and that will see Croatia walk to the other end for the 1-and-1 with China over the limit. We've got 3 minutes and 51 seconds remaining in the first half, and that 18-point bulge in the score. And looking through some of the scorers, Dino Raja has 18 for Croatia. Komasets, who came off the bench, already has 11. He's 5 of 5 from the field, so he's having a pretty nice start to the game. But Weidong Ho, number 8 for China, with 22 points as the high scorer, and he's put on an excellent shooting exhibition from outside the three-point line. He's hit 6 of 8 from out there. Pretty good in anyone's language.
This is a very important period for China, believe it or not, with 4 minutes to play, 3:51 to play. They've tried several different methods of defense, and with 18-point margin, the next few minutes will be absolutely deadly for them, because they really need to try to have a similar pattern as what happened in Spain. They want to try to get this margin back to about 14 or 15 by half-time, which gives them some chance of a contest in the second half. If Croatia make the next couple of baskets and blow it out beyond 20-24 by half-time, then China's prospects are virtually nil. So the next 3 or 4 minutes for China will be critical for them to stay in the game. They need to consolidate their defense, but more importantly, make sure every part of their offense works. Each time down the floor, they have to be selective, and they have to work on a high percentage. Otherwise, Croatia can blow the game out by half-time.
Well, you saw those field goal shooting percentages, 78 against 46, and that's indicative of the scoreline at the moment. 22 of 35 points. What a game he's having. 14 of 18 from the field. Well, that is just tremendous shooting. I'm not sure about the 14 of 18 stat. According to my stats, he's only put up 10 shots. I think they've added a few together there. He's actually 8 of 10 from the field.
Well, 14 of 18 equals 28 points.
Yeah, so it's a few too many. I think the computer's got that a little bit wrong. But Zuric at the free throw line. He's come off the bench and shown us he can certainly play. And Naikeen Woe grabbing the rebound to send Adiljan away again. Yudong Liu trying to set some screens out there and loosen up some players, but they're taking some time off the clock again. This is the way Brazil approached Team USA. Oh, that was a nice play, but just wouldn't quite come off. And that is a miss for Weidong Ho. Won't look good on his stats. Inside they go to Svetichanin down the middle, and Danko Svetichanin gets his first points of the ball game. So the clock winds down towards 3 minutes to go, and their scoreline mounting for Croatia, 56 against 35. They're going to rack up some big numbers at the end of this game as Svetichanin led it behind for Kukoc, but he made a poor pass, gave the ball up, didn't get the ball away quickly enough. As Adiljan can he score? He has. I thought they'd made a mess of that for a moment.
Well, he he never saw the player down the floor who hadn't come back on defense yet. It would have been an easy basket, but they made it more difficult.
Adaljan gets his first points of the basketball game. He's had those 3 long bombs from outside, but that time he gets a layup. Kukoc dumps it into the corner to Svetichanin. Oh, what a pass from Kukoc to find Dino Raja outside. That thing went like a rocket. I mean, you have to be a pretty good player just to catch that.
Well, they call that like a frozen rope. It's just threads the pass there. There's no hesitation, right on the button, and makes an easy play out of something that really, for most people, would be very difficult.
We've got a foul here on the defense. Well, have a look at that pass again. I hope they slow it up for us. And that is in slow motion, would you believe? And I had trouble seeing that. See the flash bulbs go off when Raja went up for the dunk. There it is again. That's a better look at it.
And from that angle, you can see that there was simply no margin in that. Defensive player on the weak side wing there had a chance of getting a hand in the lane if that pass had just been any slower or any less well directed.
Talk about players having a hot hand. Dino Raja's hands would be burning just trying to catch that thing, but he made the 2. 58-37, and Raja is up to 20 points. Adaljan in the backcourt trying to get these people organised out there. The clock comes down to 10 seconds left on the shot clock, and we've got another foul called. So this is a long offense, this one. 2 fouls called on it already. And the foul goes against Vika Zuric. And this will put China at the free throw line. That puts Croatia over the limit. So stepping up to shoot the free throws is the man who scored all the points. No, in fact, it's not. It's Naikeen Wo. They look very alike. We're a long way back in the stands here. And Naikeen Wo is having a pretty nice game himself. Scores off the free throw line, and China is perfect off the stripe. They've made 6 of 6. So around about the minute-and-a-half mark out from half-time. And Kukoc goes again to Raja. That was a different pass. Well, that time he just went straight over the top. And the smile from Dino Raja to go up to acknowledge the assist from Tony Kukoc. And haven't they combined for some points?
Well, it's...
There's that pass again. We saw the first one that went like a rocket. That one had some elevation on it, and there's no Chinese player could get near that. But he had a 6'11" target underneath the basket, and the 2 NBA stars combined for 3 more points.
And it's not too surprising that they do that, you know. Although they're playing on different teams now, they've grown up together and played on the great Yugoplastica teams that have won European championships. They understand each other so well. It's a wonderful combination.
So Raja drags it off the boards to send Kukoc away. Raja again, but they weren't able to get the shovel pass inside. And it was Ivica Zuric had a little trouble handling it, giving the ball back to China. And Adaljan again to the hole. He went to the well again. Have a look at this. Assist to the other end of the floor. Can he score off it? No, he tries to dump underneath to Zuric. So that pass came from Kukoc at the other end. The game's starting to hot up a little bit here.
52 seconds to go, and I think China needs 2 baskets to get their quota.
What did you have down as their quota?
16. 15 or 16 at half-time would be acceptable.
Well, there's a 20-point margin right now. We've got another foul. We've got an offensive foul, and that one has gone against Naikeen Wo. Have a look at it. Have a look at the elbow from Naikeen Wo as he lines up there and just got the elbow in on Kukoc as he came out to play some defense. Offensive foul, so no free throw shooting, no 1-on-1 on that one. As Kukoc looks on the outside to Svetichanin, 2-man game with him.
We're going to run the clock down this time.
So the clock comes down to, there's the clock in the left-hand corner of your screen. That's the shot clock. And that one has come off the hands of Wee Dong Ho. So they'll have 3 seconds left on the shot clock when they inbound the ball. China will do well to keep them out here. Sveti Chanan, pump fake with the 3, can't hit the 2, and China has saved the situation there. They have no time to score themselves. So at half-time here in this final 8th game between China and Croatia, there's the scoreline. Croatia 61, playing China 41. The high scorers, Dino Raja 23 for Croatia, 11 points. That was a book that was made into a movie, wasn't it, The Road? Well, Bob, I'd love to chat to you about The Road, but yes, you can see the game's about to start here, so we'll have to leave you there. And action underway here in the second half, and a 20-point deficit to the Chinese, but they do get the first possession of the basketball, and they've started without the big man Tao Shan out there, and Yudong Liu, who's come in, he changes things up a little bit for China, Lindsay.
Well, I think the reason they've left Shan out is whilst it can give them size around the basket, he was having trouble in being able to match the Croatians up and down the floor, and I think that they've gone for quickness rather than size.
Well, looking at the lineup that Croatia's got out there, they've got Tony Kukoc out there, and he played 40 minutes against the Australians. I don't know how many minutes he's going to play here. It'll depend on how the next 10 minutes or so goes, you would think, because they'll look to hold some legs. Well, Tony Kukoc has still got plenty of spring in those legs. Take it to the hole and scoring. Hasn't looked to score all that often because he's... we've been looking at his passing game and his passing skills. The Chinese turn the ball over, and Dino Raja brings the ball out of the backcourt and leaves it for Kukoc to handle the ball. Tries to connect on the pass with Sveti Chanan on the inside, but nothing happening there. We're going to have another look at that drive of Tony Kukoc. Just gets his man and offers him the baseline and jams it. So still a 20-point ball game. Teams trading baskets in the early part of the second half, and the Chinese come back with Adiljan in the backcourt.
The other significant thing is that Croatia has left out Vrankovic as well. That they're giving him a spell. He's usually one of those irreplaceable players for their size.
Well, Vrankovic, who did such a terrific job early on the defensive boards and got Raja running down the floor. Now Kukoc on his right, he's got Komasets. But the defensive transition was good. Lob inside. This is Zurich trying to work inside, but Kukoc dumps that pass along the baseline, and the referee has seen that ball go out over the end line and has seen a foul. So he's got the foul on Adiljan. Adiljan now has 3 fouls, so he's going to have some trouble seeing out this half, particularly against the kind of offensive pressure. Putting his head down and bullocking his way to the basket was Ariane Komasets.
Well, China seems to have been adopting the same strategies that they did against Spain in playing most of the first half in his own defence. They've come out in a man-to-man. The question will be is whether they can pump up their offence as well. In the first half, their offence was fairly sound, but they couldn't handle the defensive assignments against the taller and more talented Croatians.
So third personal foul against Ivica Zurich, who hasn't played a lot of minutes. Adiljan short with the shot. They pin it on the board momentarily. The Kukoc is off and running again. Behind the back pass from Dino Raja with a bounce pass. He's got some skills. Easy 2 at the other end for the Croatians, and it's a 24-point ball game again. Putting on something of a clinic. We saw Shaquille O'Neal in the stands before. Not sure how many of the USA Dream Team is here, or whether the Croatians are aware of them in the stands. But they might want to put on something of a show.
It's looking a little bit ominous for China now with a 24-point margin.
Kukoc dumping outside the 3-point line.
Like that 27.
Sveti Chanan hitting the 3. And away they go again with a loss of the ball. Kukoc on the left. Dunk. So 2 dunks from Tony Kukoc, who didn't really get into the scoring in the first half. And he takes his way to 11 points. Played the entire first half, only scored 7. but put together 11 assists. In the corner they go to that man who had the hot hand, Wee Dong Ho, but all they can do is turn the ball over. China have come up with 3 turnovers already in the second half. Now it's run down for Adaljan. China's got numbers up the floor, and Sun at the other end scores the 2. I don't think the Croatians will be too concerned about that, especially sitting with a 27-point lead.
I'm just wondering how long China will stay with this combination. This game is looking more and more like the game that China played against the United States. They try to stay competitive. They blow out a lead beyond 20 points, then they go to their bench, give everyone a chance of playing, getting some experience in this against this superior competition.
Sun with the rebound. They're off and running again, but Adaljan takes it in amongst the big boys and dumping outside. Yes, they might end up putting the cue back in the rack and think about their next couple of games. This was a game they probably felt they didn't have a chance to win anyway, but the next 2 against Greece and Canada, they would give themselves a chance. Offensive foul call. That's an interesting call. I'd get a chance to have a look at it. No, we're going to see that steal again. But that was an interesting call, that one where Kukoc held his ground. The player jumped into him and the offensive foul was called. But the first time out of the second half, and we got a 27-point ball game.
I think the Japanese referee was showing no compassion on that one. The Chinese player was trying to get a shot away. He shot the ball and then pushed Kukoc out of the way almost in desperation because he couldn't see anything. And the Japanese referee ruled that that was a foul. It probably was in a technical sense. I'll say he lacked compassion there and letting him get away with it.
The rebound situation, 19-10 as you'd expect in favour of Croatia. But 16 assists against 6. 11 of those 16 assists have come from the hands of Tony Kukoc. So we talked about triple doubles the other day, Lindsay. His rebound count isn't very high. He's only grabbed 3 rebounds, but he has 11 points and 11 assists. If he can grab double figures in rebounds, there's Shaquille O'Neal again. And he's the only one of the Americans we're seeing, so perhaps he's the only one here.
Well, I think in regard to Kukoc, that rebound count is remarkably low for him. I think he's been averaging about 8 rebounds a game. And that's another asset that he has. Not only is he great in his offense with his passing and scoring ability, he usually matches up against opposition star players and then gets more than his share of rebounds as well. So it's no wonder the Chicago Bulls are keen. Well, I'm not too sure if he's worth 26 million, but that's the way it's going in the NBA these days.
And that's 26 million US, which I understand works out at around about the 35 mil mark. I haven't caught up with today's exchange rate, but 35 million Australian. You could live on that, couldn't you?
You could get by on that for a while, at least.
Yeah.
At least over the 5-year contract period.
Yeah. Well, the game underway again. And Kukoc with the ball handling duties. It's the only 6'10" guard I've seen. Well, one who brings the ball up the floor anyway.
Well, the former Yugoslavia used to have one, Kresimir Kocic. He started the trend of the 6'10" guards, and he was a great one in the of the 60s, and maybe one of the best of all time. And he changed the pattern of the guards for the Yugoslavian teams of those years. And Kresimir Kocic, who played Brigham Young for some part of his career, and then was one of the finest in international competition for a decade.
Kukoc is fouled on the way to the hoop. Lindsay, just as the Croatians were bringing the ball up the floor there, there's the Croatian people in the crowd here will watch this replay again, this drive from Kukoc, and understand the kind of difficulties that the Chinese face. He's had 2 players into the air, stopped and popped, couldn't hit the shot. But the chant I'm hearing from the crowd here said, I'm sure they're saying boring. Maybe I'm listening to it wrongly. Maybe when they walk the ball up the floor.
Well, perhaps that's the case, but maybe I think it might be getting lost in the translation. If they find this boring, I don't think they understand the the intricacies of international competition.
Well, keep an ear out for it, and we'll find out what it is. Liu Yudong hits the 2, so 2 more points for the Chinese. And that's the sort of game that he plays. He's in there for Tao Shan, and he takes the ball away from the hoop. He's got some size about him. He's around about the 6'7" mark in the old money. Kukoc dumps off there to Raja. Off Raja's hand. Raja appealing that it came off the hands of Naikeen Wo, but the referee saw it the other way. Starting to beat some drums in the crowd now and get some noise going. Remember, after this game, Greece plays Canada, and the Greeks have come out and supported their team pretty well, and playing against the home team, Canada, who interestingly enough have been a lot of complaints in the newspapers here in Toronto that there hasn't been enough support for the Canadian team. All the Croatian Canadians have come out and support their former home country, and as have the Greeks. Not time to get that shot off. Got it off way too late. Took 30 seconds off the clock, and a little bit of a knitted brow there from the coach. I'm sure he likes them to use plenty of clock, but he'd like them to score on the end of it as well. So let's see what Croatia has to offer this time. Down the middle, another assist to Kukoc, and 2 points that time to Danko Sveticanin.
And China have abandoned their man-to-man defense again, and at last they found the range with their offense. That their offense has been cold since half-time.
That one coming from Sun. We haven't seen the high scorer of the first half, Wee Dong Ho, but we'll see him a little later, I'm sure. He'll fire up some more, and a tip in. That might have even come off Chinese hands.
No, I think that was Vrankovic.
You got Vrankovic
Long
for that one?
coming out there and just gently tapped it back without any effort.
Okay, we'll give 2 to Stoyan Vrankovic. Haven't seen any of Josip Vrankovic, who started against the Australians and dogged Andrew Gaze all over the court, but an indication of the sort of talent they've got down the bench. They can use different players, and I'm sure we'll see Josip Vrankovic when we get down to the medal round. Dump on the outside, quick shift into the corner. Here's the guy we're talking about. Wee Dong Ho hits one from outside the 3-point circle. Hit a heap of those in the first half. He's now 7 of 9. Remember, he had 6 of 8 of those in the first half of this contest. 25-point ball game. China in the zone. Tao Shan again occupying the middle of it. Nothing for Sveticanin, and a foul, a reach-in foul, I think, against Sun. Put his hands on his hips and a quizzical look at the referee, and there's one of the Croatian flags, but not nearly as many here at Maple Leaf Gardens that we might have expected. Those that are here are making plenty of noise. There's the tip in. That came off the hands, I think, of Raja. No basket, the referee says. He called that an offensive goaltend?
Yeah, no, they'd be very upset about that in the National League, in that presently the international rules prohibit the alley-oop pass. And what he was saying there, that the ball was above the basket on the pass, and tip it in Australia, that the alley-oop pass is legal, and throughout the rest of the world after this tournament it will be legal, as the rules that have been designated by FIBA are going to change.
Here's our man again, and he's right on target again. Wee Dong Ho hits another 3.
But for the time being, the alley-oop pass is not legal. Not in this competition anyway.
28 points to Wee Dong Ho, leading all scorers. Dino Raja has 23 for Croatia. And Vrankovic, well, that's close again.
Well, he picked it up from just below the level of the ring and then tucked it over the top.
They're really testing out the referee from Italy. It was his call again. He was on the trail. It was his chance to see it, but he said that one was legal. And I think there was a bit of cheek in that one, Lindsay.
Tried to make a point, I think.
Call this one. Adeljan. Slowing things up. They get their clock under 10 seconds to go again. And he made a miss. So Wee Dong Ho shows that he can miss. Almost a steal from Ho again. 3-point shot that comes here from Ariane Komasets. Komaset's hit some good threes against the Australian, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play against Team USA. I'm looking forward to seeing this team in the medal round, just to see which players they go to. Tao Shan looking to try and bank it. Brankovic not taking it too seriously, though. Down the middle, and a reject from Brankovic. That was Wee Dong Ho, the three-point shooter. And Brankovic got that out of here in a hurry. So timeout once again. 83 plays 56, a 27-point ball game now, and 10.5 minutes to go in it. So the Croatians doing it very, very easily.
Well, the Croatians, I think, are just pacing themselves through this, that they've opened up an unbeatable lead at this stage. China, I think that they've also waved the white flag as well, although they are making a valiant effort to try and match the scoring of the Croatians. They've really only had one reliable scorer, and that's Ho, who's been quite remarkable in his consistency from the perimeter. But the last couple of plays down the floor, I sense that condition is starting to be a factor with him, showing the signs of being just a little bit fatigued. And I doubt that he will stay in the game too much longer, as China will go to their bench, give other players some experience, and look ahead to the more important games that they face over the next couple of days in a chance to perhaps finish second in this group. Croatia will, I think, be automatic in this group to be number one. The second team of this group goes to the medal round, and China may still be in for a surprise against Greece or Canada. Either of those two games would be an upset for China to win. However, they've already shown that they can have upset equally internationally reputed teams like Spain and Brazil. So this game now, I think, is no longer a contest for China, and they probably will be thinking of the games ahead from now on.
Replay of the Kukoc Sveti Chanin pass. But Lindsay, looking at the players come back onto the floor as we just watched this replay there, they've still got Raja, Kukoc out there for Croatia. Really, there's no great need for them to be there on the floor at this stage of the game. I'm just wondering what the thinking of the coach might be in keeping them out there.
Yes, well, I think that we've got an expression in our team at home where we say, never give a sucker an even break. Now, whilst there is, I consider to be an impossible margin here, that these games are so deadly serious, you don't make any changes that might go to the bench and give any opportunity whatsoever for the opposition to catch up. We've won games from 20 points down in the last 9 minutes in National League competition. There is some possibility that it could happen here, but it would have to be extraordinary. But I think you can be assured that Croatia won't give any chance before they go to the bench. It's just too important.
Underneath they go to Brankovic with a hook shot that falls out. Adaljan it is who cleans up the rebound. We just, the last time down the floor for China, we saw them turn the ball over on a 30-second count for the third time in the ball game. That's how much they're trying to run the clock down. 3 times they've run themselves out of time in trying to take a shot. Shan working things at the high post. 3-point shot goes up there from Sun. Nothing for him, but tipped down by Brankovic, who tried to tip to a teammate, only tipped it into the hands of Yu Dong Liu. Very controlled tip from Brankovic.
Well, his rover was out of position. That's for Australian rules fans.
Adaljan off and running, gets it out to his right and pulling it up and trying to make the score. Wee Dong Ho with one of his rare misses. I think he was too close. I think it was inside the 3-point line, actually, when he took that shot. But I look at our statistician have said it was a 3-pointer, so he's now 8 from 12. Very deliberate once again, the Croatians. Josip Brankovic, who I mentioned earlier, hadn't played, out there and makes a 3-pointer. No relationship between Josip Brankovic and Stojan Jankovic. That's Brankovic. Wee Dong Ho doing some ball handling this time and giving Adeljan a rest on the left wing. Now it's Adeljan to look for penetrate and draws the foul out of Josip Brankovic.
A little bit of suspect footwork there to start the drive, but once again the Japanese referee was allowing a little bit more than normal.
6 team fouls now against China, 3 against Croatia. And we got a little bit of a step on the takeoff there. And the Chinese turn the ball over once again. So what won't please the Chinese coaches, the number of times they have come down the floor without getting a shot off. That is now their 16th turnover in the game, and once you get up around the 20 turnover mark, you've made way too many. Josip Brankovic in the corner. Through some sets of hands, Kukoc on the inside. Nothing that time from the wing, but they do get a second opportunity and run down here by Ivica Zuric. Kukoc is fouled that time. So we've got a foul. The foul goes against Zheng Wo. And timeout here. Now, I talked earlier, Lindsay, about the amount of time that people like Tony Kukoc is playing. We've seen the rest for Dino Raja, but Brankovic is out there. I'm wondering in particular about Kukoc and Raja. We noticed with the American team, we figured that they weren't in great shape because they're out of season. A similar thing would apply to Kukoc and Raja, and is the coach looking to run them into shape?
Oh, I don't think it's a matter of condition. I think it's more a matter of combination. You see that these teams have only been together for a short period of time as well, and they've got to get a feel for each other, and they work together, and the longer they play together, the more they do things instinctively. And I mean, I think that Kukoc and Raja can stay away from each other for 2 years and still come and combine well because of all of the time that they've spent together. But it's really a balance of the whole combinations. They're trying to fit them in. And so I don't think it's a matter of condition. I think it's really more the question of team combinations. But this is not a physically demanding game for the Croatians. They're pacing themselves up and down the floor. Every now and then they'll work an athletic transition. But other times you can see the whole 5 players are just strolling down the floor together as they take their time, set up the half-court game and go to work on the Chinese with their size and precision.
The other important thing, we spoke about it today at the Australian practice. The Croatians there really enjoying the Phoenix Suns guerrilla show. But speaking to some of the Australians, and particularly to Barry Barnes, he was saying under this situation they've got in this tournament with 4 timeouts in a half, the players just aren't getting tired.
That's right. So endurance has not been so much a factor in this tournament because you can have 9 television timeouts plus the timeouts that you have by the coach that's called. And so with that much rest in the game, and it's only a 40-minute game, and most of these players are now playing 48-minute games in their regular league competitions, condition or fatigue has not been a factor.
Well, Kukoc is still out there, and they turn the ball over in the backcourt, but the man who turned the ball over gets it back again, and that is Arjan Komosec, and finishes up with a score at the other end to Josip Brankovic. So a bit of a comedy of errors that time, but the upshot of it is that we've got a 30-point lead. 88 playing 58. China, who were a surprise to be in this part of the competition. Komosec again with a steal and a dunk. Rubs some salt into the wounds. China, they're in unknown territory in this part of the competition. This fellow knows his territory though. Wee Dong Ho, that is his 9th three-pointer of the game. Amazing shooting exhibition. So 29-point game. And Croatia looking for another way to score. Brankovic it is this time. Almost contemptuously there and stuck the ball in between backboard and rim. Now you don't often see that. You see the ball sometimes stick there when it comes from a long shot at the basket. There's Josip Brankovic making his last basket. But here's the way was a Comerset takes it to the hoop for a score.
And that's not a bad play for the so-called little guard.
No.
Interception, then take it down for a windmill dunk.
There's Sun Jun, who's done his job with handing off the ball. Takes a seat at the bench, but Stoyan Brankovic can't hit from the free throw line. Makes 1 of 2. 91 plays 61. Croatia shooting at 75% for the game, and China at 51%. 50% from outside the three-point circle, the team in red. Drive to the basket, and under some intimidation from Brankovic, that's Stoyan onto the hands of Josip Brankovic. Down the middle he goes, and 2 points off the left-handed lay-in. He was fouled as well. He could make a three-point play. We'll have a look at the block at the other end. Just got a little piece of this one. Blocked it against the board. Got the fast break going. So Stoyan Brankovic, that was partially blocked, but he had good hands, Josip Brankovic. Takes it to the hoop and scored. The lefty makes a three-point play. So the further this game goes, the further that Croatian lead goes out. 33 points right now.
You have to admire the Croatians in the way that they've played through this tournament. You mentioned there before that their percentages is 75% in this game. First game they played against Korea, they shot 80%, 75% here. Australia was able to restrict their percentages down to around about the 50-55 mark, I think it was. And considering the level of competition here, when you're shooting 75 to 80% for a game, it's no wonder they're up there ranked amongst the best in the world.
Indication of what they're like inside. That last basket we saw from China came from Tao Shan, the big man. It was his first basket of the game. We'll have a look at it. Adiljan with the presentation. Off to Tao Shan, up against two players. He had to beat Brankovic. It was a good move, but that's the first time he's been able to do that in the game, and now he's been taken out.
Well, this might be a substitute by the clock rather than by tactics. It's time to get someone else in the game just to get this experience.
Tao Shan went across and in Chinese tradition stood right on the sideline and bowed to the crowd. Out he went.
That's his gesture of saying farewell.
Ivica Zuric. So we won't see Tao Shan again by that gesture. And Zuric makes one off the free throw line. Out of the ball game, Tao Shan with 5. Min Chang Ji in the game, and we haven't seen a lot of him, but he has got some range. And, well, Shaquille O'Neal liked it. I'm sure Min Chang Ji liked it as well. Kukoc in the dump off, and nothing there for Comersets, giving the ball up and the drive to the basket, but it's Josip Brankovic, Stoyan Brankovic, the Brankovic show, one end to the other. And the big Croatian crowd here loves it. They seem to be more coming in towards the end of the game, and there's quite a few Croatian flags starting to wave in the audience right now. Away they go again with the run. Kukoc hands it off. Comersets was fouled. And you reckon there was an extra step in there, Lindsay?
Absolutely. But it's not going to be called in this game.
Well, they've been fairly consistent with that. Another Chinese player fouls out. Out of the game goes, just trying to catch it up. It's the man who scored all the points. Wee Dong Ho fouls out with 31 points.
Well, he's had a great game. That when you consider he can look back on this one playing against the team that'll be vying for the gold medal here at the World Championships and getting 31 points against this level of competition, that's something you can be proud of.
Well, you saw Tony Kukoc go to the bench as well. Kukoc doesn't have as many points. He had 13, but he's taken 15 assists to the bench. And there's the difference, 58 to 16 on points in the paint. those who are new to the game there, the points that are scored close to the basket. Looking to find someone close to the basket there, China, and fairly futile attempt. But that's a good shot for Yudong Liu. That's his range. He loves to spot it up around about the 17 feet mark.
Well, when you talk about in the paint on this court here, that's anywhere inside the three-point line, isn't it, the way that this court is designed? And for the Croatians, I think that'll be right. Anything inside the paint is automatic for them.
99-67. Timeout here at the Maple Leaf Gardens, the home of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Tony Kukoc with a bit of a smile for the camera. I guess when you played in the NBA for a couple of years, Kukoc knows where all the cameras are.
Well, I suppose so. I'm not too sure if that's high on his priority right now. I think that he's fairly comfortable in the way that this game has gone, and I'm sure the team is preparing well as they look ahead to the medal round. The games that they'll play beyond tonight will be a little bit more competitive, but all of the signals are that they're putting their game together very effectively. They're very efficient. They're tough defensively, as they showed against the Australians. They haven't been tested as vigorously as against the Chinese tonight, but they are looking better as the tournament goes ahead, and that's not surprising.
But you can see the Chinese coach, the Bad Blue Boys. I'm not too familiar with the Bad Blue Boys, but we might see something a little later on that might indicate just who they are. Plenty of Croatian support out here, and I mentioned at the start of the game that there were very few of them here. The Maple Leaf Gardens is still only about probably half full. Maybe that's being a bit generous, 33% full, but it's full of Croatians. And the scene in the streets outside here the other night, particularly when they beat Australia, there were police everywhere. There were traffic lights turned off because they just flooded the streets outside of the stadium. And if that's an indication of what we're going to see towards the end of the competition, I'd like to see what will happen if they win this thing, Lindsay.
Well, I think you can see the reaction of the fans here. It's almost like the scenes that you see at the World Cup soccer playoffs, where the fans take their support into the streets as well.
Pretty good trio on the bench there with Raja, Vrankovic and Kukoc all taking a rest at the moment. This takes something away from the size of the Croatian team, and the Chinese have come back in a zone and asked this team to shoot from the outside. Might see what they can do in a moment, but we're getting down into the second level of the Croatian team right here. I saw a three-point shot go up there. It wasn't a close one at all, and they ran the clock right down and were forced into that. So we might get an idea of what the bench is like. Komaset's out there with Josip Brankovic. They've seen plenty. Sveti Chanin out there, number 8, playing defense at the moment. He's seen plenty of court time over plenty of years as well. Jin Song Jong out there, number 12 for China, and the shooter, that is Yudong Liu, who's stuck about 3 from that exact spot. A little behind the back there from Josip Brankovic. He'll go to the free throw line. I saw you try one of those at practice today with the Australians, Lindsay, and you lost a little technique on that one.
A little bit out of practice, and I didn't want to show up my opponent on that one either. Didn't want to embarrass him.
But Josip Brankovic at the free throw line. His team with a 30-point lead and 2.5 minutes to go. I thought with the score early in the first half that we might be heading for about 120 or 130 point game here. Got 2.5 minutes, and Croatia still looking for their 100th point. It's going to come fairly short though on the next basket. It comes right now. It's come from Divor Pejinovic, who's been sitting on the bench a long time, sat right through the last game. Sveti Chanin keeps the defense up and takes it to the hoop at the other end. In fact, that's Elanovic, I must say. Elanovic, the starting guard, coming in and makes it 103-69. So no points that time for the little man Liu, and a block on the shot, and Elanovic using his experience there to throw that ball off the leg of the Chinese player with a bit of a smile for his teammate Josip Brankovic in the back court. Inside they go. Oh, behind the back play was probably a little bit too fancy, and a block by the Chinese, their first block of the ball game, I think. And things getting a little bit loose out there now, Lindsay.
Oh, I think Ivica Zuric has taken over from Tony Kukoc's role of trying to find the snappy passes and make the assist plays there. The pass he made before was very much like Kukoc. That one, I think, had the right intention, but just a little bit off in the execution.
Well, Jin Song Jong for China, number 12, who had just a couple of minutes in the game, has been taken out straight away as Zheng Wo comes back. Zheng Wo, who plays in the backcourt for China, he's over on the right wing at the moment. But the shot goes up there, and it's a sweet shot from Yudong Liu. And Liu works his way to 10 points. But the Croatians have no trouble in replying at all. 34-point ball game. Off the baseline, there's another score. And that one comes from Daiqing Liu. He's another who doesn't see very much court time in this team, but it's what we perhaps call skins time, and a turnover of the basketball from Croatia. So the last two times down the floor, they've only succeeded in turning it over. There's Jin Song Jong on his screen, Lindsay. He just went out of the game 30 seconds ago, and he's back in again.
Well, I can't work that out. It's too complicated for me. I think the rotation for the Chinese coach has always been baffling throughout the tournament so far. But I can't be critical of this, that they're playing on the top 8. It's something they've never ever done before.
There's a holding foul, and in fact it was Divor Pecinovic who appealed to the referee and said he hooked me, but the referee has seen it the other way. The Croatian crowd here at the Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto is starting to find full voice now and sing their players home. 40 seconds left in the game, their team leading by 32 points, and the singing goes up. Turnovers by both teams, and that's the sort of game you get at this end. Even though the players are probably great players in their own country, they come and play at this level, and they come in and play like skins. Shifting the ball on the perimeter against this 2-1-2 zone now that China's got set up. Taking time off the clock. Now they got inside the paint and called for a travel. The travel being called against Ivica Zuric. So 14 seconds left now for China to rack up their last score of the game. Yudong Liu turns the ball over. Over the head it goes, and another turnover at the other end. No, they've kept it alive. Underneath the basket, Josip can't score. Stick it in. That point will not score. That will not count. The clock beat it. And there's a bit of Canada and Croatia fervour. The Croatians leave. The crowd is singing here at Maple Leaf Gardens as the teams congratulate each other. Lindsay, Shaquille O'Neal has seen the Croatians win by 32. Has he seen a team that will challenge them?
Well, I don't think he's seen anything here that would cause him to lose any sleep between the next few nights and when they're due to play them. But I think if he becomes complacent, that would be a mistake. This was very much a regulation game for Croatia. They paced themselves through it. It wasn't physically demanding. It was just, well, with respect to China, it was